What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we talked about Mario Kart Tour yesterday with the backlash on the microtransactions, the subscription fees, some features even being hidden behind the subscription fee, and people weren't too happy about all of that stuff, the extra monetization on top of what's a free-to-play game, right? But today we're going to talk a bit about the mind-blowing success of the game in just one day. Seriously, we're to the point now where even Pokemon Go is looking at it like, wow, that's some pretty serious stuff there. We're also going to talk about Last of Us Part 2 as it's now come under controversy, with it now just being apparently a single-player only game. We're going to go over why that's a problem, to the point now where Naughty Dog has even responded to this whole situation and may have let on a little more than they wanted to at this time. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure the like button does help out, and get subscribed and the little bell notification thing down there on as well, so you can keep up to date on all of the gaming news going on in the gaming world. If the notifications don't work, you know we're here at 8 a.m. Eastern time every weekday morning to go over all the different gaming news, and we're going to start today with Death Stranding and Kojima because it has now gone gold, which means it's completed. We shouldn't expect any weird delays or anything crazy going on. There's actually a picture on Twitter now that he posted of him holding the disc of Death Stranding, where they burn it to a Blu-ray and everything, mark the occasion and all of that. And then he apparently, I guess, just sat down with a bunch of paid extras to take a picture, and because, of course, from what I was reading, he did everything himself. Now, this obviously is a joke. This was, of course, the crew, the studio that helped design and create Death Stranding. He went on to thank everyone, took this big picture of about 80 to 100 people, and we can look forward to Death Stranding this November. I wasn't really expecting it not to go gold at this point because it appears to be their big game for the holiday. Just good to know it's there and we could pick it up in November. Also, if you're a fan of the My Hero anime, the series, and maybe you liked One's Justice, you'll be happy to know that it appears that a second one is coming. That's right, they're doing a sequel to the original one, and I remember playing it and I thought it was okay. It didn't feel like amazing through the battle mechanics or anything, but I was hoping that they would continue to build on the series, pretty much because the anime is so massively popular right now. I felt like they wouldn't be able to just leave it at that. And as you're seeing here, there was an issue of Jump that came out that seems to show all of that in place there, but no release date. It appears it's going to be on the Switch, the PlayStation 4, and the Xbox One, with the Xbox One being a digital-only release. If I had to take a guess as to when it'll come out, I would say probably early to mid next year, and we can hopefully look forward to it then. I'm hoping this isn't like it's coming out like next holiday and it just happened to be shown in the Jump magazine. I don't think that's the case. I think this might be like a March or April release, and I'm hoping they add a few more things on top of it. I was willing to say, okay, this is the first one, One's Justice, it was all right, but now we can build on it. Hopefully this becomes a long-running series alongside the anime. It just progressively gets better and better. That's the hope overall, and hey, maybe it gets to the point where these games make enough money to where they do a big blowout of some big, massive open-world RPG series. Who knows? We can always hope, but hey, One's Justice 2 coming soonish. And if you're one of the people who bought Bloodstained on the Switch, you weren't happy with the performance or the input delay or anything, well, we do have a bit more information on the patch that is coming before the end of November is what they're saying at this time, and they ran down a long list of stuff that they're doing. As you're seeing here, they talk about visual fidelity, the way the backgrounds and environments are rendered are going to be significantly updated so it looks sharper, the loading times, particle effects are already being changed out severely, so it looks way better. They say hundreds of particle effects with new assets, and the biggest thing that I complained about that they seem to have realized heavily here is the input lag, with input lag times being significantly reduced, and once work on this is completed, the game should feel much more reactive when playing. Thank you. That's the biggest thing there. I can live with some of the visuals, but like that input delay really hurt. Just, I guess, look forward to it. Hopefully by the end of November it's out. They seem to have struggled with this patch, but it sounds like, right now anyway, they're full speed ahead on it. Oh, and you're going to want to keep your eyes out for, apparently, House of the Dead 1 and 2 in 2020. Now, there's still not a lot of information about this. For example, we don't know what platforms it's coming to. If I had to take a guess, based on Forever Entertainment being the developer creating it, bringing it over alongside Sega, it seems, I would say you can bet that it's probably going to be on the Switch, especially since that would seemingly work with gyro controls pretty well, and this was done in an interview on a Polish website that was then translated, and some publications ran with it was automatically on the Switch because of their previous history, but that has not been like said straight up or anything, so We'll have to wait for more information and a reveal on House of the Dead 1 and 2, like a remaster for the Switch and maybe other platforms, but I think the Switch makes the most sense. I think that's why a lot of places were assuming that's what would happen. I'm going to keep an eye out for it, and I'll let you guys know when it does get officially announced, but just, hey, look forward to that, because it seems to be happening as they themselves have said. That's their 2020 project, seemingly after Panzer Dragoon. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Mario Kart Tour. Now, we talked about the monetization, all of that stuff. Some people didn't even like the way necessarily that it played. However, I've also talked to people who seem to really enjoy the game. I myself have not had a chance to play it yet, but it's free to play. I might as well download it before the podcast tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, that all of you should tune into. And I'll probably talk a bit about it then alongside of some other games. But the one thing that I've noticed, and I think a lot of people have noticed, is that the cell phone market is massive. Like, if you put a game on cell phones and at least the IP is well known and it's a free-to-play game, you're going to get a lot of interaction. You're going to get a lot of people checking the game out, at least downloading it, not necessarily putting money in, but you're going to have that word that some people don't like to hear anymore because it's technically a games as a service word, and that is engagement. So here's a chart that shows how much engagement Mario Kart Tour had over all of Nintendo's previous games that are specific to them. This isn't counting Pokemon Go, which, by the way, was right around 7 million, as well as how Mario Run is there, but you can clearly see a massive difference between Mario Kart Tour at 20 million downloads within 24 hours of launching. That is insane. That is so fast to get to 20 million downloads. And then Mario Kart, Super Mario Run, at 7 million, Fire Emblem Heroes at 1.8 million, Animal Crossing PodCamp 1.7, and you kind of see from there on. Dragalia Lost actually really struggled right out of the gate at 150,000. However, I will at least say for Fire Emblem Heroes, while that's down there at 1.8 million, it has made quite a bit of money in Japan, and that's just because of the gacha mechanics, whereas Super Mario Run had a much better shot out of the gate there at 7 million, but failed badly when it came to the stuff around it. It didn't do bad necessarily when it comes to just sales if you just look at them, but when you compare it to something like Fire Emblem Heroes, which is making hundreds of millions of dollars, it falls short, and that's why Nintendo has moved, of course, to this gacha mechanic with Mario Kart Tour. Now, Daniel Ahmed also went on a bit further, saying that they made $1 million in revenue in the first 24 hours, which is only 25% of Fire Emblem Heroes, and that is kind of telling. What this is saying is basically they're getting a lot of downloads, but at this time, at least in the first 24 hours, not a lot of spending. And it's going to be curious to see going forward if they get more and more spending as time progresses, or if it's kind of a flat line, like, oh, you get, I mean, it sounds like a lot, right? Oh, you get $30 million for the month or something for the game. For, yeah, a game like that, that's pretty good, but you see Fire Emblem making so much money. But Nintendo, I think, is going to continue leaning into these gacha mechanics, and I know people were really not happy with them with Mario Kart Tour, but they tried, like I said before, they tried Mario Run. It didn't work. It didn't. They tried to sell the game for $10 and people said it was too expensive. It's now free to play, and they have microtransactions on a $5 subscription pass, and now it's better for the cell phone market. That's just kind of the way it is. Now, also think about this. 20 million people have now played Mario Kart that maybe have not played it before because they're younger, or they forgot about it from back in the day and they've now played it on their cell phone, and now they are shopping online for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This has a couple of different reasons why Nintendo is doing this outside of just making straight up money on the App Store. It's also advertisement for their IPs. In this case, that'd be Mario Kart. So Mario Kart's already a juggernaut on the Switch, but it could actually sell more. We've seen this. There are 20 million people who are willing to download it and try the game out just in 24 hours. And that, not even that many people have bought Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. There's still a lot of room to grow, and this makes sense for Nintendo to do this simply because of the amount of people they can bring in. Next up, let's talk about Last of Us Part 2. Of course, we saw the reveal for the release date at the end of February during the State of Play, and then press got a chance to go hands-on playing up to 4 hours of this game. It sounds like it's going to be massive. And if you already heard, of course, about there being 2 discs, which we did, it sounded like it was going to be a massive game. And I thought, okay, single player on one, multiplayer on the other. Not the case. It's actually going to be a single-player only game. There's not going to be any multiplayer here, and I know what you're thinking because I saw this a lot. There was a multiplayer with the first, yes, there was a multiplayer with the first one. And believe it or not, it's still active. If you pick it up on PlayStation Plus, what's that, next month, you can jump on and check it out. It's pretty fun. I didn't get as into it. I remember when it came out, I tried it out a bit and I was like, okay, and I moved on. I think I was playing Halo or something at the time. So I kind of moved on from it, but I did think, I was like, you know, when the second one comes out, maybe I'll try that multiplayer, and it'll give me a chance to start with everyone else for the most part. You still gotta learn levels and everything, right? But it's not happening. In fact, US Gamer actually posted this quote here as they were at the press event, and this is from several different representatives there. For example, they say, we're focusing on a single-player experience, so we're just making a single-player game for this. And then Sony also went on the record saying, correct, it is a single-player game. That is from a Sony representative clarifying over email. So yeah, there's no multiplayer here. I'm a little surprised, to be honest. I really, really am, because while it is good to a degree for people who don't want the multiplayer and they just want single player, consider this now. This game is going to be 2 Blu-rays and it's just single player. So if you're somebody who doesn't care about the multiplayer, you're probably ecstatic right now because it sounds like the single player is going to be huge. It's going to be massive. 2 discs for a game on the PS4 means this might be a 100 gigabyte game, and it's all physical media, which is good. It's not like you know, pop it in and you got to download another 60 gigabytes, although who knows how big the patch will be. This is good for people who want just the single player experience, and they're fine with that. But people who want the multiplayer have to feel burned right now because they were so into the multiplayer on the first one, and they don't understand. I mean, Last of Us 1 had multiplayer, right? Uncharted 4 has multiplayer. These are both Naughty Dog games. But for some reason, this one doesn't, because it seems like Naughty Dog can do a multiplayer and a single player. Well, they decided to take to Twitter, and I think they let on a little more than they wanted to, saying, we wanted to address multiplayer in The Last of Us Part 2. As we've stated, the single-player campaign is far and away the most ambitious project Naughty Dog has ever undertaken. Likewise, as development began on the evolution of our factions mode from Last of Us Part 1, the vision of the team grew beyond an additional mode that could be included with our enormous single-player campaign. Wanting to support both versions, we made the difficult choice that The Last of Us Part 2 would not include an online mode. However, you will eventually experience the fruits of our team's online ambition, but not as part of The Last of Us Part 2. When and where it will be realized is still to be determined, but rest assured, we are as big a fan of factions as the rest of our community and are excited to share more when it's ready. Well, that does technically at that point explain why we had listings, job listings for multiplayer aspects to the game, and sounds like they are doing The Last of Us Part 2 as a single player only game because they are taking factions, which is the multiplayer from the first Last of Us, and maybe they're going to make an actual large game out of it. That's what it sounds like with this reply. It's just not ready now. It's probably something that's going to come out, might be a PS5 thing. That's kind of what I'm thinking. It seems like a lot of the resources were put towards the single player, but they were also still kind of working on this on the side. And when this is out, then they'll pursue the multiplayer. So while I know right now people aren't happy because there's no multiplayer in this SKU that's going to launch, right? Last of Us Part 2, there won't be a multiplayer option. It sounds like this is more of a long game for them, and that eventually, rather than try to just push it out with Last of Us Part 2, you could have a massive, this very large online multiplayer experience, and that might end up being better in the long term. But right now in the short term, yeah, I see why people might be a bit frustrated, but we'll see what Naughty Dog has, and I have to see how large this game is. 2 Blu-rays for a single player? This can be something else. Next up, let's talk about Miss PacMan. Now, originally I talked on the other channel, the second channel, about how there was conflict between Bandai Namco and AtGames. Bandai Namco was suing AtGames because they were apparently circumventing negotiations they were having with a company about Miss PacMan, trying to retain the royalty rights for it. Well, check this out. I couldn't believe this. Polygon got the word on this one, and AtGames has indeed secured the royalty rights for Miss PacMan from General Computer Corporation, or GCC. And what that means now is, yes, technically AtGames has some sort of ownership, while it is small, over Miss PacMan. So at this time, what that means is they have the royalties that GCC would originally receive if Miss PacMan was used in a game or likeness or advertised or whatever they need to be used. They would get some money for it. So AtGames technically owns part of Miss PacMan, but here's the problem. Bandai Namco actually owns Miss PacMan. So now there's this weird conflict. Basically, AtGames, for whatever reason, has now involved themselves in the Miss PacMan trademark just to be a part of it. Possibly to hold up stalemates, I'm not sure. It is so weird, or maybe to work their way out of this lawsuit that has been formed by Bandai Namco. It's so strange. I don't know why they need to have Miss PacMan so badly, because it feels like they are just like leaning on it so much. They've been working on this since 2012, apparently, for 7 years, bringing it up to Bandai Namco constantly, and now they get the royalties for it. It's so weird, but we'll see what happens going forward, because Bandai Namco is going to continue this lawsuit, and we'll see if there was interference by AtGames in the negotiations between Bandai Namco and GCC. And our last bit of news, this is pretty neat. Check this out. So we've talked about the late Satoru Iwata having a ton of influence right now on the Switch, right? Where there's the concept of the Switch, or even working with Sakurai to deliver what is literally the ultimate Super Smash Bros. Game. Well, he had one other thing that he had been doing well before the Switch was even revealed. Remember, it was still the NX. Well, he had actually talked to Square about Dragon Quest XI. You remember that was like one of the first games revealed, announced for the NX at the time? Well, according to Nintendo Soup, who did the translation during their live stream for Dragon Quest XI-S, they had been approached by Satoru Iwata himself talking about Dragon Quest XI and how he really wanted it on the system. He wanted it on the NX. He even talked to him a bit about the idea well before it was ready to be revealed that it was going to be a system that was at home and also on the go. And it sounds like they were intrigued by it to the point where they stuck it out for that long. I mean, this is back, man, this would have been 2015 according to them. They stuck it out that long, and during this live stream, they said, we finally completed the promise to Satoru Iwata to bring this thing over, to get Dragon Quest XI on the Switch. And it kind of makes sense as to why they put so much time into it and why Nintendo is working with them so heavily to publish it. And we get all this really good content extra from the PlayStation 4 version that I had a blast with, and now I get to go back through, play it in like the 16-bit mode and stuff. Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. So looking forward to that. That's actually out today. Don't sleep on it. Dragon Quest XI is an awesome Japanese RPG. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one is from MFolicX2 saying, analog only works with GC controller. The GC adapter plugs into the same USB port as a wired controller. What could the adapter be doing that a wired controller can't? Now, to my understanding, how it's been explained from some developer stuff and different forums and even Feral Interactive to a degree, apparently the Switch recognizes the GameCube adapter and then switches to like a GameCube mode almost, and that's why in the menu, when you have the GameCube controller attached, it lights that up because it recognizes the GameCube controller. You can design that in the game, but because the Pro Controller and the Joy-Cons do not have analog triggers, it has not been designed in for any controller outside of that GameCube controller that it detects when you're using the adapter to use. It's very strange, but it does make me wonder if Nintendo could eventually patch that in after seeing that steering wheel with the, the pedals and everything. I kind of hope they will, and I almost think they could at some point, but then there would be the whole situation between this Pro Controller has digital but not analog. You gotta explain, you gotta figure out. Maybe next gen with the next Switch, they'll go back to analog triggers, but for now, it seems like it's all digital. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's The Last of Us Part 2 and the multiplayer, single-player controversy. Let me know where you stand on that. Or Super Mario Kart Tour, doing so well on the cell phone right now, to where even Pokemon Go is looking at it like, wow, that's a lot of downloads. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.